Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is regarding yesterday's White House press briefing, where NBC White House correspondent Kristen Welker questions Karine Jean-Pierre on a variety of topics, all the way from the IRS whistleblower to, is Joe Biden to blame for, anything? Before we get into it, as always, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. Your help support would be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Thank you. A couple, first on Hunter Biden and on McCarthy. Just to be very clear, for the sake of transparency, which the president says he values, does the White House support giving this IRS agent whistleblower protection?
For the state of transparency, and so that we do not politicize any of this, the president has been very clear that this is something for the Department of Justice, which is independent, and we have been very clear since the campaign that this is something that they need to speak to, and that's why we refer you to the Department of Justice. We're just not going to speak about it from here.
For the sake of transparency, and then using the word clear, but not answering the question, how is that being transparent as well as clear? Let me know if you could figure that one out, because I sure in hell can't.
I just have you respond to some Republicans, though, who suggest that the fact that the IRS agent is seeking whistleblower status could show that the administration is slow walking or somehow obstructing justice.
We're letting Department of Justice handle this. That's what an administration does when they believe in the rule of law, when they believe that the Department of Justice is independent. That's what the president believes. This is something for the Department of Justice. This is an issue that they're dealing with, and we leave that to them. As I mentioned, my White House...
Question of the day for the comment section, folks. Do you think the DOJ is independent? And what I mean by that is, do you think the DOJ is working with the Biden administration behind closed doors to do some foo-foo stuff? That's the question of the day. Let us know in the comment section below. Would love to hear your responses. A lot of you gave Joe Biden an F. Some of you gave Joe Biden an A grade the other day because he excels at destroying this country, which we talk about in our book. And some people that gave him an A because he's destroying the country from the inside out probably read our book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. You're seeing it in real time. Folks, grab yourself a copy. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart. Heck, you can find it anywhere and everywhere. Pick yourself up a copy, or heck, get a copy for a Democrat friend because they need to be red-pilled. Real quick, let's go ahead and continue.
Colleagues at the counsel's office put out a statement on this. They were more specific on that, and so I certainly would refer you to my colleagues and to the Department of Justice.
Just on the debt limit, at the risk of dating myself, I was here back in 2011 during the debt ceiling fight then. And due in part to the gridlock over that issue, S&P downgraded the nation's credit ratings, markets plummeted, interest rates increased, the country's borrowing costs went up by more than $1 billion. Is the president risking the same and Congress by dragging out this process?
It's not the president that's risking this. Well, it is Congress. It is Congress that is risking this. These political stunts that you're seeing from Speaker McCarthy and the MAGA wing, this is dangerous. These are political stunts that will have long-lasting effects, as you just laid out. This is something that they can easily deal with immediately by putting a piece of legislation on the floor to deal with not defaulting. This is their constitutional duty. We should not have to negotiate on this. We should not be doing this with conditions. They were able to do this 3 times under the last administration, a Republican administration.
But doesn't everyone...
Folks, if you're looking at my reaction, it's just because it really does blow my mind. Not just the executive branch, but Congress as well. Is that you have these politicians that are elected that are terrible with money. They're terrible with all of our money. And now we're over $30 trillion in debt. And now you have this knuckle here, Sideshow Bob, that pretends to answer questions of which nobody ever asked her. That it's a good idea to just continue to raise the debt ceiling. Like that's going to solve the problem. You see this time and time again from just Democrat Party in general, or heck, politicians, that they will give quote unquote solutions. And for those that are listening to audio, I put that in air quotes because there's never solutions. You put a Band-Aid on something and then it just continues to get worse. In the same way, they had a solution to the situation at the southern border, of which now you have a massive bleep storm. And then their idea of fixing the issue is to give us a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually solve the issue. Like giving helicopter rides to illegal immigrants to fly them from one facility to another. That's part of the package that they want to do down there at the southern border. Not build a border wall, not stop the bleeding. They would rather put a Band-Aid over something that's gushing blood and then say that, oh, look what we did. Everybody bow down to Joe because he's doing a great job. That's basically what she's talking about here. Rather than getting our finances in order, filling our ish out, stop giving everybody entitlements through our entitlement programs, our social programs, which is basically 70% of our budget. We're going to sit there and go, hey, let's trim, let's cut back on the military. All the while you have actual countries that hate us, that wants to wipe us off the face of the earth, but we're going to cut back on our military and basically give everybody handouts at the end of the day with all these social programs that we want to do. It's insane, folks, but they're not going to solve the problems because we keep electing the same people that haven't solved the problem for decades.
Bear responsibility, including and especially the president.
The responsibility to make sure that we do not default, it sits in the hands of Congress. And right now, it is Speaker McCarthy and the MAGA wing, of the Republican conference. It is up to them to get this done. They are wasting time. And I've already laid out what they did propose, how much that's going to hurt American families who are trying to make ends meet.
But the president said, show me your budget. He didn't say, show me a budget that I agree with. Speaker McCarthy's put forward
you have to finish the statement. He said, you have to finish what he said. The statement that he made, his quote is, show me your budget and I'll show you what you value. That's what the president said. And by looking at this blueprint, by looking at the plan, they are certainly showing us their value.
I guess the question is, isn't the ball in the president's court?
I already answered the question, Kristen, many, many times. This is a constitutional duty that Congress has, and Speaker McCarthy is playing games. He is wasting the time of the American people. This is a political stunt, and he has to act. He has to act. And what he showed us yesterday, he aligned himself with the MAGA wing of the party. Go ahead, Ken.
Like how quickly she moves on here because she doesn't answer the question. Joe Biden's not to blame for anything. It's been 2.5 years. You guys, I know I say this all the time. I'm very self-aware that we repeat ourselves a lot here on the show, but it's so mind-boggling that you could look around and see the bleep storm that's taking place in Democrat-ran cities, the crime, the drug usage. You look at the southern border with the massive surge of illegal immigrants that are coming across the country, over 5 million people. You have 22 to 25 million people presently in the country illegally as of right now. You have literally 11 terror watch list people that were just apprehended in the month of March. Joe Biden's still setting records for the month of March, by the way, but they're going to say that everything's going fine. You have China flying spy balloons, more than one, over our country, gathering intelligence. I mean, you throw a dart at the board and everything is going wrong under Joe Biden, but nothing that he's doing is wrong, which is amazing. Again, let me know how you think Joe Biden's doing, folks. Is he doing well? Is he doing poorly? Would you vote for the guy again? Should you think he's going to run? A lot of stuff you can answer in the comment section. It's so fun reading what you guys have to say because some of the stuff you guys say is hilarious and I get a freaking crack up out of it in the morning drinking my coffee. I absolutely love it. Or sometimes I'm scrolling through during lunch. You guys are a lot wiser than I am in the sense of, yeah, the knowledge that you have, but also your comedy that you're spewing. I absolutely love it. Again, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Moving into our second story of the day, we got the man, the myth, the legend, the other gladiator. From Real Clear Politics, we got Philip Wegman here. Folks, if you haven't gone over to Real Clear Politics and checked out his articles, he writes phenomenal articles in depth. The guy does his research. He knows how to write. He's one of my favorite reporters, if not my favorite reporter in the room. You got Jackie Heinrich of Fox News, Peter Ducey of Fox News, and you got Philip Wegman of Real Clear Politics over there, who should be in the front aisle, by the way, the front row. The guy does better questions than half the people in that front row, or at least the second row. At the very least, he should be up there amongst all the other greats. He has a few questions here. One regarding, basically, there's this money from the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's money left over. Should it go back to the Treasury, if I'm understanding the question correctly? And then he basically goes after her, asking, you guys are pushing this whole electric vehicle stuff by 2032. Do we even have the actual materials to pull this off? Do we have the grid, our electric grid? Will it be able to handle this whole plan that you're pushing forward? Do you have a detailed plan? Wait till we get to her response on that one, folks. Let's go ahead and roll it.
I'm going to continue going back. Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you. I've got two quick questions. The president ended the COVID emergency earlier this month, and one of the things that House Republicans are calling for is for some of the unspent pandemic emergency funding to be clawed back. Would the president, I know he has a reputation during the Obama administration as being the sheriff when it comes to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, would he at least be interested in reviewing whether there is some of that money that could be returned to Treasury?
I mean, look, here's the thing. What the president has been able to do in his first 2 years of this administration is deal with a pandemic, a once-in-a-generation pandemic, by putting forth a comprehensive plan. You think about the American Rescue Plan, what it was able to do, no Republican voted for that. And so we use that money to actually be in a different place than we are today. COVID is not over, but we are in a different place. And so it is...
Boy, oh boy, are we in a different place, folks. Let me tell you something. Gas prices through the roof. Inflation still through the roof. The economy's not going the right direction. Microsoft's laying off thousands of people. Amazon's laying off thousands of people. McDonald's is laying off 150,000 people. I mean, you name the corporation, they're laying people off, or they're leaving Democrat-ran areas. Boy, has she never said something more truthful, folks. We are in a way different position. You got to love the fact, too. She's like, well, you know, we're in just a different spot here after sending out trillions of dollars, especially to people that didn't even need it, and inflating the economy. And then we're supposed to praise Joe Biden for the fact that it went down a few percentage points. All the while you lost like $4,000 to $5,000 since he's been president, at least.
It is bizarre, after the progress that we have seen, for Republicans to be asking this. But the president, when he came in, nothing was being done. He made sure that the economy came.
Nothing was being done. You had Project Warp Speed. I mean, Trump literally paved the path for you, lady, and you guys still screwed it up. What are you talking about? What? Project Warp Speed was already there. Things were already getting the ball moving on a lot of stuff. You literally just had to go, hey, go back to work. Everything's going to be fine. And sit back and let Joe Biden nap the entire time. Okay, make sure you give him his warm bottle of milk every night. Let him sit there. Don't touch a damn thing, and everything would have been fine. You guys would have been actually, honestly, having probably a pretty good presidency. Keep the guy locked away in the basement. Don't allow him to show face, which is pretty much already what you're doing. And you would have just rode on Trump's coattails and you would have been successful. But no, you couldn't have done that. You got to sit there and open up the southern border, allow massive immigration, illegal immigration to flow through. You let China do whatever they want. You let Russia do whatever they want. You let Iran do whatever they want. Now you got North Korea launching ICBMs. You let them do whatever they want. So this is what happens here.
Came back in a way that that we haven't seen in some time by making sure we created more than 12 million jobs. He made sure that people had shots in arms. He made sure that we were to come out of this pandemic. Again,
boy, did he make sure you had shots in arms. Sometimes by force, by the way. You couldn't go to your job if you didn't have the jab. Do you know what I mean? Some of you couldn't literally go back to work if you didn't get the shot, so people left. Look at the military. Yup, a lot of military people were let go because you didn't get the jab. Boy, yeah, you made sure people got it. That's for sure. And then you gotta love how she spins there. Well, we created 12.5 billion new jobs, everybody. No, you didn't, lady. You spend it. And you spend it really hard because you shut everything down and people go back to work and go, look what we created, look what we did. Well, you made the mess in the first place. And so people go back to work and then you try to just do a victory lap over the bleep storm that you made, and then you kind of solved it somewhat. And that's giving them way too much credit by me saying somewhat, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
COVID is not over, but we are certainly in a different place than we have been before because of what the president has done and the action that he took. And so to claw back money after having the successes that we have seen because of this president's action, it just doesn't make sense to me. I got to keep going.
He'll get a second question here about the EVs. Oh boy, wait till we get to that, folks. If you didn't see the first segment with Kristen Welker of NBC News talking about the deficit, the debt limits, and all this stuff, her response here is insane, right? Well, why would we give the money back? Why would we do something that's logical and correct? Well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Only to the Democrats it doesn't make sense. They want to spend your money. That's why they want to increase taxes, right? Especially for the wealthy. They don't want you to have your money, folks. They want to give it to the social programs. They want to give it to the trans people. Okay, they want to give it to everywhere else, other countries other than actual Americans.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Wanted to follow up on the White House's proposal to mandate that 2/3 of all passenger vehicles by the year of 2032 be electric. It's a lot of batteries, obviously. So does the administration have a concrete plan to ensure that those raw materials for these new EVs, either through federal support or some type of motivation for the private sector, that those EVs don't end up coming from China and we don't become dependent on a foreign power that might not be friendly to us.
So here's what I can.
Let's listen to her question. Just one moment, though, because this is a huge question, you guys, and we have covered it here on the Bald Brad Show in terms of it is impossible, and we hear this from the mining companies themselves that mine the lithium and the zinc and all the raw materials basically you need to create all these batteries and electric vehicles. They themselves, the companies that are actually doing the mining, are saying that it is impossible to meet the demand and to meet the expectations that the White House is pushing, the Democrat Party is pushing. It's impossible. Furthermore, China's the one that's mining all this stuff. They literally have like the entire market share of it. So what's the plan, Joe? What's the plan? Because China doesn't like us. Okay, China's our number one enemy other than Russia. Let's hear their grand plan here, folks. You think it's going to be detailed?
Say every step that the president has taken is to build more here in America. That's every step that he's taken. To bring investments and jobs back to America, to build supply chains here in America, and that's what's happening. And already the private sector has invested more than $120 billion to build more electric cars and batteries here in America. And that is because that is what the president has wanted to do and put forth, and he wants to make sure, right, we are building here, right here in the United States.
She is so dumb. She is so dumb. Either that or it's just it's an act that she's putting on, because you could have all the materials here in the United States and build it. If I were to make a pencil, I would have the lead or graphite, whatever you're going to use, the wood, the paint, the metal, the eraser part for the rubber. Like, I can assemble it here. The question was a pathway, an actual plan on how you plan to get all these materials, again, the zinc, the metal, the lithium, all that stuff. When China basically has the entire market space for it, the entire market cap for all this stuff, what's your plan, Karine? They don't have one. And here's the thing, and you really see the difference between Democrats and Republicans here. Republicans, very logical, want to create a detailed plan on how to get something done. Democrats, they'll shout something, and then, just kind of we'll figure it out later on the back end. Let's pass all this legislation, these crazy-ass ideas. We'll figure it out after we passed it. We see this in the state of California with the bullet train. Oh, we'll have a bullet train go through the middle of nowhere. Everybody's going to love it. And it's way over budget. Hey, you know what? Let's make everybody have electric vehicles by 2032, and everybody's going to have one. In certain states, you can't even buy a gas-powered vehicle after a certain date and time unless it's used. You have to drive it. Oh, can your electric grid handle it? Well, it can, but we'll figure it out later. No, it can't. No, it can't. Our electric grid sucks, folks. You got to pray to God that China or some other country doesn't drop an EMP or even a nuclear warhead above our skies, because your vehicle isn't going to run. And wait till it's all electric. Wait till that happens. And furthermore, more of a realistic probability of what's going to happen here is your mileage is going to be tracked through these electric vehicles. Everything's going to be tracked. There's already been talks about that you can't go a certain distance in mileage, and they're going to literally shut your vehicle down. I mean, read all this stuff. It sounds like conspiracy theories, but it is 100% real. Then that's going to affect your ESG score, your environmental score. Then you're not going to be able to get out a loan or something like that. That's all predicated on the Great Reset. Phenomenal book by Glenn Beck called The Great Reset. Alex Jones has a book called The Great Reset as well. I save yourself the time, folks. Don't read that one. Alex Jones has some good stuff. That book is not good. Glenn Beck does a phenomenal job explaining ESG scores. It's just not a reality. If you want to push EVs, that's fine, but you have to let things happen over time. You can't just force things all the time to happen, and it's just, we're not there yet. We're not there. You got to just let it roll out naturally rather than forcing things, and let certain companies catch up, let the mining industry catch up. Moving into our moving into our third story of the day and our last story, we have, I think his name is Vivek. I'm not even going to try pronouncing his last name. All right, I'll give it a go. Ramaswamy, that wasn't even close, is on CNN here, and he destroys Don Lemon. It is so fun to watch. We're going to watch a good 6 to 7 minutes of this because, folks, you saved the best for last. He is running for president here for the Republican Party, and they're trying to go after him for this speech that he made at the NRA about, in a nutshell, fighting the Civil War to give Black people their freedoms that they deserve, that were enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, but weren't really coming to fulfillment till later on after the Civil War. And it was really through the opening of those freedoms, specifically the Bill of Rights and having that Second Amendment right, that really paved the way for all the other rights to really be enshrined for them, because now they carry that Second Amendment right and all the other rights will flow through with it because they have a right to protect themselves and their freedoms that they are enshrined with by God. But that's going way further in depth here. Let's go ahead and roll it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already.
I want to get into a few issues, one of them being China. Before I get to China, I just want to better understand something you said this week speaking before the audience at the NRA. Here's what you said, referring to back to 1865. Here it was.
I want you to raise your hand if you know when the first anti-gun laws were passed in this country. Raise your hand if you do. 1865. You want to know when it happened? We fought a civil war in this country to give black Americans the equal protection under the law that we failed to secure them in 1776. But then you want to know what happened? Southern states passed anti-gun laws that stopped black people from owning guns. The Democrat Party, then as and now, wanted to put them back in chains.
I want to pause it. We will continue. I just love the fact that, yes, he said the South, usually in school, usually in conversation and in speeches, they stop there, but they don't call out who was running the South, who was the party of the Ku Klux Klan, who was the party of racism, who was the party that were holding people back. Well, you're also seeing the same party today holding black people back, which is what he's mentioning here. It's more of a metaphor nowadays of oppressing black people, not allowing them to actually flourish, is the Democrat Party. He's being specific here. It's a Democrat Party. If you want two great books on this, they're both by Dinesh D'Souza. The first one is called The Big Lie, and the second one is called Hillary's America. Phenomenal books, destroys the Democrat Party, and the lie that they spread about the big switch is that the racists went to the Republican Party and those that were non-racist went to the Democrat Party. It's a big lie, folks. Go ahead and read about it. Again, it's Dinesh D'Souza, called The Big Lie or Hillary's America, both by Dinesh D'Souza. Let's continue.
As in now, that's quite an accusation about the current Democratic Party. Who and what were you referring to?
I was referring to Joe Biden and his expression of wanting to put them back in chains, dating back to Lyndon Johnson. I think Lyndon Johnson's so-called Great Society was one of the greatest misnomers in American political history, where even back then in the 1960s, 70% plus of black kids were born into two-parent homes. Today, that number is less than 30% in the opposite direction. The very policies that we implemented in this country in the name of helping black Americans have actually been disastrous for black Americans and all Americans. And I think that that's something that we need to wake up to.
In 1865, you were talking about the black codes, right?
That's right.
Passed, enacted to make it a crime for a black person to carry a gun in the South. But you're equating that to the current president? You're referring to economic chains? What are you saying?
Well, I was referring to Joe Biden's, I think, ill-chosen expression to say they're the party that wants to put you back into chains. What I'm actually saying is that if you look at the policies of the modern Democratic Party.
About Democrats.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is that actually it's policies like that of Lyndon Johnson and Joe Biden that are actually holding black Americans back.
The war on poverty?
Yes, and in particular, his Great Society, where he actually created incentives in the family, where if you're a family, you could actually get more money by not having the father in the home. Guess what you get? You get what you pay for. And I think it's been really bad for the black community. I think it's really bad for all Americans.
Quick question for all of you, and whenever I ask you a question, I'm being genuine for wanting your response. Do you think when we as Republicans or just people in general, it could be on any topic, do you think that Democrats just aren't able to make connections to what people are saying? Because the reason why I bring this up is when a Democrat lays out what they're saying and they're making the connections, I can actually understand their argument. I can fully understand it. They don't understand the holes that they're making, but I can understand the connections and the reasoning that they're trying to create in their mind, even though it doesn't always work out. Are they just incapable of actually seeing the connections that he's making? Let me know in the comment section below, because I've always wondered this. Are they playing dumb? Is it an act? Or is it an ego thing that they don't want to accept? Or they're just incapable of seeing the connections that he's making here? Again, let me know in the comment section below.
Do you have anything on this before I move on to China?
I don't see what one has to do with the other, but go on. I took up a lot of time with Fox.
Oh, it's fine. We have time.
I don't really see what one has to do with the other, especially consider and using the Civil War to talk about black Americans. That war was not fought for black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for black.
I mean, it partially was, right? I mean, that was part of the freedoms that they would get is the Second Amendment. So the fact that he can't make this connection, that was just the one of many of the freedoms that he would get. And that's what it was why it was fought for, was for them to have the freedoms that were enshrined in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights.
People to have freedoms in this country. Yeah. Actually, that's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
And the sad
but that
part
wasn't
about
fought for black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, funny fact is black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured.
Correct.
And I think that that's one of the lessons that we learned.
Still aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. And I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize the fact that we have equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you can disagree with me. But we're not. You mentioned that we have three different shades
Don, I think
of
we have to be able to
here.
talk about these issues in the open, regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to 1865 and 1964
equal rights in this country.
Actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating.
He doesn't want to sit there and argue with him because he's getting destroyed right now with facts. If you notice, Don Lemon's going with the character argument. And rather than putting the character argument necessarily by name calling, Vivek, I think is his name or whatever, it doesn't matter. He's putting the argument basically on himself, on a characteristic, going, well, I'm a black person. You've never been in my skin. You don't have my skin color, which, by the way, the tones of the skin color aren't that far off. I believe he's Indian, and then obviously Don Lemon is black. But regardless of the point that's being made is Don Lemon's going on a pure argument of characteristic on, well, I'm a black man. You don't know the situations I've been in. It's all anecdotal, where you have the other gentleman here presenting actual facts and historical facts and saying black people have the freedoms. And it's the policies that were instituted by the Democrat Party going all the way back to 1865 and therefore forward that are actually oppressing black people, but you don't want to acknowledge those very things, which is a metaphorical plantation, which has been called out by Candace Owens and Dinesh D'Souza. But for some reason, again, it's crazy to me that he actually can't make these connections. And he's on a talk show. He's going to talk to us about not having freedoms. You got to love this whole point. And I know I'm going on a rant here, but the Democrat Party are constantly going, well, we're oppressed. Black people are oppressed. Black people can't do this. You're holding us down. But the same people that are saying that are the celebrities, right? The millionaires. They're the senators, right? The president, like Barack Obama, or the attorney general, like Eric Holder, or Don Lemon of CNN, literally has his own show, or at least is on a show. It's insane. The people are telling us that they're oppressed are like higher than all of us in society, higher in merit than all of us. But they're being oppressed.
For you to put those things together, it's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission, and I think that after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for.
That's not what he said. That's why I played it specifically when she was talking about, hey, let's cut to his speech at the NRA. That's not what he said. He said that the Civil War was there to fight to give black people the freedoms. One of those freedoms that they would have received was the right to bear arms and the freedom of speech, as well as various other rights. Now, you could say at that specific exact moment in time, they may have not received those, that it took some time for history to evolve and people's perceptions and certain stereotypes and discrimination, all that stuff to formulate. Things take time, which is a misunderstanding of the Democrats and many people in history, that going back to when the Declaration of Independence was written, the founding fathers wanted to give black people rights, the same rights of that were enshrined in the Declaration of Independence, the right to liberty, right? All the rights that basically the white people had at that time as well, but they wanted to give it to them. And they knew that it would take some time to get there, and they had to make a decision. Do we have a country, or do we have no country, but somehow we're going to have a government where we can give some rights to everybody, but they're not going to have those rights because we don't have a government. So they had to create that time, and they knew that time was going to come when these people, meaning black people, would get those rights. And thank God they did. And it was a bunch of white people that fought for those rights, by the way. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they got it. And they have it today.
For the Civil War,
it is a
that's
fact.
Reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
Insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
Black
part
people,
of what secured
hang on,
that
please.
freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know how they got it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment rights, and they actually got, the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don, the
NRA did not play a big role in
absolutely,
that.
they trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in that.
This is just historical fact. But
It's
Don,
not historical fact.
the part that I
Just
find,
because you say it's historical
the
fact,
part that
it's
I
not
find
historical
insulting is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I have
the
a different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white.
That argument just gets so tiring. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what type of discrimination I've had. You don't know the racism that I've experienced, as if nobody out there's ever experienced racism, as if I've never experienced racism, as if I've never been discriminated against, as if I've never had stereotypes labeled on me. It's just like, it's so tiring. Like you've never been in my shoes. So I have to be in somebody's shoes to be able to make an assessment about something is ridiculous. I don't have to have cancer to know that cancer is bad and to have empathy for somebody that has cancer because I know it's bad. You can read books about things and have a full understanding of it. But, this is, again, the argument that's always pushed,
that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate without me regarding you as a black man, but me regarding you as a fellow citizen. That's what I think we should see.
Whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
whatever ethnicity
about
I'm, I'll
what
tell
it's like to be black.
Whatever
in America.
ethnicity I'm, I'll tell you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
The content of the
if you're
ideas.
going to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way. Okay? But we appreciate you coming on.
With due respect, Don, I look forward to continuing that conversation.
We'll
Thank
continue
you.
the conversation.
Thank you.
If you don't think that he's honest and fair, then why are you bringing him on your show? He talks all the time. It's not the first time before this segment that we watched, they were doing a whole thing about how Fox News was sued for defamation and had paid close to $800 million. And he didn't know anything about it. And so they were really hounding him, going, well, how do you not know anything about it if you're on their show all the time? You're always doing these hit pieces, and not hit pieces in a negative way, just going out and actually talking about news stories and headlines. And he goes, well, I don't keep up with all this stuff all the time. I have other things to worry about now that I'm running for president. And so he's basically hounding him this entire time, meaning they know that this guy is genuine. They know this guy talks a lot on news outlets, but he's going to sit there and go, well, you just not being genuine. You're not being basically truthful in your argument. Everything that he said is actual fact that you can go read in literally a high school textbook. It's not hard. But Don Lemon, because he has a certain ideology, he's been indoctrinated by the woke mob, the woke left, these libs on revisionist history, Howard Zinn history. He has this entire viewpoint concocted. And what I've always said is people can't accept the truth, folks. And there's a reason why. When you have an entire worldview, if you grew up your entire life with your teachers telling you specific something, your parents telling you specific something, the movies that you watch telling you specific something, to TV telling you specific something, I mean, everybody's been telling you the same exact thing. So when you finally have somebody come up and going, well, that's not the truth, here's the actual truth, here's what took place, they can't accept it because their entire worldview is shattered. He's sitting here going, well, it's my skin color, you don't know what I've been through, you don't know what I experienced. All the while, you guys, he's sitting on CNN with an Indian person and a white person having the same exact freedoms that we all have, saying that black people don't have the same freedoms that we all have. Do you see the craziness in that? Do you see the hypocrisy in that? Do you see like the blinding of this man? He doesn't actually sit there and see that he has all the freedoms of everybody on that stage and is somehow going to say what the other gentleman, Vivek, is saying is lies and disingenuous. It's insane. It's insane, but we're all watching the same thing. Like I've always said, we can't all agree on objective truths anymore. We can't even agree on history. This country is doomed, you guys. This country is doomed because we can't even agree that men are men and women are women. The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. We can't agree on anything anymore. So we're only going to become more divided because you got knuckleheads like Don Lemon getting a show on CNN. They're having kids watch this, producing more leftists in the school system. They're going to have the same viewpoint as Don Lemon here because they're listening to him going, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds right. So enough of me rambling, folks. I hope you enjoyed this Friday episode of the Bald Brad Show. If you haven't gone over, folks, please pick up a copy. I'm telling you, you're going to like it. I keep bringing it up. If I didn't think it was good, I wouldn't bring it up to you guys. I wrote a book that I would want to read called Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. It talks about Antifa, how Antifa is destroying this country, the BLM movement, how it's destroying this country, abortion, how it's destroying this country. I mean, you name it, it's in here, folks. You're going to have a phenomenal read. It is a great read. It's a quick read. And I really appreciate those that have gone over to Amazon and left us a review. It does help us in the rankings. I know there's a 6 of them now. Folks, one ranking boosts us like, oh my gosh, 800 levels. So we were at, say, like 1,700, more than that. And we had one, Jen put in her review, and we went to like 649. So I should say it boosted up almost 1,000, not even 800, but 1,000 positions. So if everybody storms to Amazon now and leaves like a nice, just solid review, a 5-star review, there, and I'm being dead serious, and I wouldn't push this if I wasn't, we could be in the top 10 of political books on all of Amazon. Like all of the entire world, we could be in the top 10 of political books. If like 5 of you, 5 to 10, if we got 10, I mean, we would probably be number 1. That's not a joke. We would be in top 10 of political books, and we would be making a hit and making an actual difference here with getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers. So even if you didn't buy the book, head over there, get a 5-star review, folks. Your help and support would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't gone over and picked yourself up a mug, I'm telling you, coffee tastes way better in this mug. You got the Bald Brad Show mug. I'm telling you, it's gloss. It's great. Look at that. Oh, look at that, huh? Trump would drink out of this, okay? You can put anything you want, tea, beverage, alcohol, right? Get a little bit of Bailey's in the morning. It's good, okay? This guy's great. He's done everything right. He's over here preaching the American gospel. I'm going to lose my voice here. Head over to baldbrad.com. Get yourself some swag, some shirts. We got it all for you over there, folks. Thank you so much. I love you guys to death. And I'll see you here Sunday for another episode of The Bald Brad Show.